Hi there, this is Madeline Wilson, and this is part 3 to my goal setting project. I'm outside in my backyard because it's a beautiful day, and I figured if I were outside there would be less of a chance of my dog being up in my business. However, that really isn't the case, so I apologize. She will be up in my business. But anyways, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the process that I created to achieve my goal, what I learned about myself and what I learned about the process in general, and then I'm going to talk about what I would do differently if I were to do this project again in the future. So my goal, I wanted to do a full split on both sides and not just like kind of halfway there. I wanted to do a full split on both sides. So I decided to piece together some stretches that I knew just from going to yoga occasionally. I'm not very knowledgeable on what the stretches are called and what they specifically do. However, I know they get you stretchy, they get you warmed up, and so I just kind of started there. So as someone who does not know a lot about I don't want to say body stuff, but just muscles, muscle groups, how to target them and really get them to do what you want. This was just kind of me blindly jumping in. So I'm going to start from the beginning. I decided to track my progress for doing the splits. I think it was the last week in January up until last week, which was April, very early April. So it's like a 3-month-ish, a little bit less amount of time where I measured my progress. I used a really big ruler and I would measure in inches from the bottom of my leading leg to the mat. And so that's how I marked my progress. Sorry, my dog. And so that's kind of how I got started. So basically, sometimes I would work out first and then I would do my sequence stretch, and I would have really good results on those days because my muscles would just be super warmed up. And then some days I would just go in and I would do my sequence of stretches, and then I would go into my splits and see how long I could hold them for. And so I got some variable results. Ultimately, I did not reach my goal, but I got pretty close. So I learned a little bit about the body that I didn't necessarily anticipate learning. I learned about fascia, which is a special part of muscle tissue, and I learned that the longer you sit in an uncomfortable stretch, the more your fascia is gonna pull apart and help you sink as low and as deep as you can go into it, and I think that's really cool. And I feel like the more that I learned about the body component, the more I was able to like understand it and therefore work with it. Like after I learned about fascia and like how to manipulate it in the best way, I felt when I would feel uncomfortable, I would be able to push myself a little bit further because I understood the process. So I did learn some things about myself along the way. I learned that I am not very disciplined. I started this goal with some pretty high hopes that I would be consistent and that I could do this every day, and it turned into kind of like every other day, and then it turned into once a week I would measure and record that progress, which just ultimately wasn't often enough to achieve the goal that I wanted, but it was still cool that I maintained it for as long as I did. And there were times when I was sick during this project. There was a couple of times actually I went to the hospital. Never gone to the hospital for being sick before. And I still managed to squeeze in some stretches here and there. So that's pretty cool. It was definitely a test in dedication and how far I was willing to go, and ultimately I didn't reach my goal, but I did accrue a lot of progress, and I think that that should be celebrated at the very least. So if I were going to do this project again, or really any other sort of like stretching progress project, I would definitely put in some sort of system that would hold me accountable for doing it at least every other day, if not daily. I know life gets crazy and you just run out of time during the day. It's easy for me to say, make time when I'm in the middle of a quarantine, and I just have so much time on my hands. But I think if you really want to achieve your goal, if it's for stretching, then consistency is really the main thing. I would say that all you need is practice and a determined mindset, which, yeah, I did not have enough of that this go around, but that's okay. So I wanted to elaborate on some of my stretches and show you my ultimate results for my project. So I have a yoga mat behind me. My dog will probably try to steal the spotlight, and I'll be kind of far away so you won't be able to hear me talking, but I'll show you some of the warm-up stretches that I did, and then we'll go into my split on my best side. My left side was a lot easier than my right side. I have a lot more flexibility on my left side, which is interesting. I'm like stronger on all of my left side of my body than my right side, but my right side is dominant. I don't know if that's a trend for everybody, but I know what that is for me. So thank you for listening. I'm gonna go do some stretches, and I hope you like my split. Thank you for listening. Gonna go now. Happy quarantine.